The internet is on fire right now as shocking claims about Erika Kirk's so-called Miss USA party photos erupt across social media, and Candace Owens is absolutely furious. What started as a few leaked images has now spiraled into a full-blown scandal, pulling Erika, Charlie Kirk, and Candace into the spotlight in the most chaotic way imaginable. Comment sections are flooded, group chats are blowing up, and fans are demanding answers as whispers turn into accusations, and accusations turn into viral headlines. People are questioning everything: Erika's past, her brand building, her friendships, and even her connection to certain political circles. Some are claiming the photos are older than she admits. Others insist she used the Miss USA label to boost her public image. And in the middle of it all, Candace Owens, livid, calling out the rumors, the bloggers, and anyone daring to twist the narrative. She's posting, responding, denying, and fighting back harder than ever, trying to shut down what she calls manufactured drama. But the internet isn't calming down. The photos are everywhere, the theories are multiplying, and fans are starting to believe there's more to the story than Candace wants to admit. The tension is explosive, the contradictions are messy, and everyone wants to know the same thing. Why is Candace so angry, and what is Erika trying so hard to hide? The internet hadn't even finished waking up when the first wave of Erika Kirk's so-called Miss USA party photos hit social media, and within minutes, everything spiraled into absolute chaos. The images spread like wildfire, reposted on gossip pages, political commentary accounts, and even lifestyle influencer feeds. No one knew where the leak originated, but everyone agreed on one thing: the photos did not look like harmless party pictures. They carried a tone, an implication, a mystery that instantly pushed people into overdrive. And in the middle of this digital storm, Candace Owens went from silent to furious in a matter of hours. By mid-morning, the claims had already taken shape. Bloggers began suggesting that Erika Kirk had used the Miss USA label to craft an image of herself that didn't match reality. Some insisted the photos were staged. Others argued they were from a party she allegedly crashed in hopes of getting spotted. Screenshots of comments from people who claimed to be there that night started circulating, each adding new fuel to the flames. The narrative grew faster than anyone could control, and suddenly Erika's entire brand, polished, conservative, disciplined, curated, was under attack. Candace entered the conversation abruptly. She posted, she commented, she responded, and she made it clear she wasn't going to let anyone rewrite Erika's story. But the tone of her reaction wasn't just defensive. It was emotional, sharp, almost personal, as if she felt these claims weren't just about Erika, they were about her circle, her credibility, her influence. The anger was obvious. She believed someone was deliberately targeting them, stirring chaos for clicks, and she wasn't about to sit back and watch. Meanwhile, fans and critics were digging deeper. Threads appeared explaining the timeline of Erika's life, her events, her affiliations, her appearances, and comparing them with the supposed date of the Miss USA party. People speculated whether Erika had misrepresented her involvement, whether the photos were older than she claimed, and whether she had padded her story to bolster her public persona. The more people talked, the messier it got, and the more Candace's frustration grew. The political world and the influencer world rarely collide, but in this case, the overlap was unavoidable. Erika Kirk sat at the crossroads of both, which meant the audience was massive and the reaction unpredictable. Some conservative commentators defended her immediately, calling the photos harmless and dismissing the entire narrative as an attempt to smear women in their community. Others hesitated, asking for clarification, questioning the inconsistencies, or simply refusing to jump to Erika's defense without more information. That hesitation alone made Candace even angrier. She started addressing people directly. She called out bloggers for spreading unverified information. She snapped at followers in her comments for falling for nonsense. She insisted Erika never claimed to be a Miss USA contestant, finalist, or affiliate in any official capacity. But the public wasn't listening, not because they didn't believe her, but because the story was too messy, too interesting, too dramatic to scroll past. The photos themselves told a story the internet wanted to interpret. Erika was seen smiling, posing, and mingling with women who appeared to be title holders or finalists. Some wore sashes. Some wore crowns. The party decor suggested a pageant-adjacent event, but lacked the official branding people expected. This opened the door for speculation. Was Erika invited? Was it private? Was it a sponsor event? A charity night? A pre-pageant after-party? The possibilities were endless, and every new theory pushed the conversation in a different direction. Charlie's name inevitably surfaced. People began asking whether he was aware of the photos, whether he approved of the image Erika was projecting, and whether this incident could cause tension in their marriage. It was speculation, nothing more, but speculation spreads faster than truth, and within hours, the couple was trending online. The situation became bigger than a few leaked photos. It became a full-fledged narrative about authenticity, branding, marriage, and political image. Candace seemed determined to keep the conversation away from that territory. She repeatedly shut down comments that mentioned Charlie. She redirected every accusation toward internet lies and manufactured drama. But the harder she pushed, the more invested people became. They wanted answers, not reactions. They wanted clarification, not anger. And the fact that Candace appeared more upset than Erika herself only intensified curiosity. Meanwhile, Erika remained silent. Entirely silent. No posts. No comments. No statements. Her stillness created a vacuum, and the internet filled that vacuum with theories. Some fans claimed Erika was waiting for the right moment to speak. Others argued she was avoiding accountability. A few even wondered if Candace was handling the entire response, because Erika was overwhelmed behind the scenes. The silence became part of the story. Then a thread appeared claiming the photos were from a charity event loosely partnered with pageant sponsors, not an official Miss USA organization. The thread explained that Erika had attended through a friend, that the event did not require affiliation, and that many attendees commonly referred to it as a Miss USA party, despite not being formally part of the brand. It sounded reasonable. It sounded plausible. But by the time it surfaced, the narrative had already taken a life of its own. Candace seized on that explanation, reposting it instantly and calling out the blogs that refused to correct their claims. But her aggressive tone overshadowed the clarification. Instead of calming the situation, her posts made people wonder why she was fighting so hard and why the situation seemed to affect her so personally. Theories evolved again. Some claimed Candace was protecting Erika because they had upcoming joint projects. Others believed Candace wanted to shield Charlie from embarrassment. A few suggested political motives, arguing that the inner conservative influencer circle hated negative publicity and wasn't prepared for something as unpredictable as leaked party photos. No theory was confirmed, but each added more electricity to the conversation. By late evening, the controversy sat at an intersection of image, influence, and insecurity. Fans felt conflicted. Critics felt emboldened. Observers felt entertained. And through all of it, the core question remained floating in the air. Why did these photos matter so much? And why did Candace Owens react with a fury that turned a simple leak into a cultural moment the entire online world couldn't stop talking about? Part 2 would push the conflict deeper, uncover new theories, and reveal why this scandal refuses to go away, and why Candace's anger may not be the whole story. What made this entire situation even more chaotic was the timing. just as the story about Erika. Meanwhile, people who attended the Miss USA weekend event started stepping forward. A few anonymous insiders claimed the photos of Erika weren't edited, weren't exaggerated, and weren't taken out of context. They said Erika really was at the party, she really wasn't wearing her wedding ring, and she really was surrounded by men who were treating her like she was single. One insider even claimed that Charlie wasn't there, and Erika appeared not to care at all. According to them, she was smiling, dancing, and joking around, completely unaware that her photos would later become the center of a cultural war. But then something unexpected happened. Another guest from the same night came forward with the opposite story. They said Erika wasn't flirting with anyone, wasn't acting out of pocket, and that the camera angles made everything look much more dramatic than it was. They insisted Erika was only talking to people who were part of the event, and that the entire thing was being misinterpreted by people who already wanted to believe the worst. The conflicting accounts only fueled the chaos. People didn't know who to believe, and the lack of clarity turned the situation into a battleground for fans, critics, gossip blogs, and political commentators alike. During all this, Candace was reportedly on the phone with multiple people in Charlie's orbit. Some sources claimed she was trying to gather information before going public. Others claimed she was furious that she was pulled into yet another scandal that had nothing to do with her. And still, others claimed that Candace believed someone with a personal grudge was deliberately leaking the photos at the exact moment when she was already under heavy public fire. Whether or not that was true, the delay in her response only made people more curious. When Candace finally spoke, she didn't go the route people expected. She didn't deny the photos were real. She didn't blame the media, and she didn't call out trolls. Instead, she suggested that the entire situation was disrespectful and manipulative, but not on Erika's part. She implied that someone was trying to smear the Kirk family, and that the timing of the leak made it look intentional. Her phrasing was sharp, controlled, and clearly crafted to send a message without giving away too much. But the public wasn't satisfied. They wanted details. They wanted answers. They wanted to know exactly what happened at the Miss USA after party, and why Candace seemed so genuinely irritated. While Candace was pushing back online, Charlie Kirk made no major statement. His silence only added fuel to the fire. Every hour that passed without a word from him made the situation look worse. Some people insisted Charlie was embarrassed. Others said he was furious behind the scenes. And then the most dramatic theory emerged, that Charlie and Erika had been going through private marital issues for months, and that these photos were the breaking point he never wanted made public. Again, none of this was confirmed, but online gossip doesn't wait for confirmation to spread. At the same time, Erika's own social media accounts became a battlefield. Every post she had ever made was suddenly flooded with comments. Some people defended her fiercely, saying she had every right to enjoy a night out. Others accused her of being careless or intentionally reckless. A few even claimed she was trying to rebrand herself as more glamorous and independent, as if she were preparing to step into a new public identity. That idea terrified Charlie's supporters, because Erika has always been presented as the soft-spoken, elegant, conservative partner of a man who built his entire career on strict, traditional values. It didn't help that the photos circulating weren't blurry or questionable. They were crystal clear. Erika looked confident and carefree. She looked like she belonged at that event. She looked like someone who wasn't trying to hide or distance herself from anything. To her supporters, that was empowering. To her critics, it was suspicious. And to Charlie's base, it was a PR nightmare. Candace's anger, however, wasn't just about the photos themselves. People close to her suggested she felt blindsided. As someone who is often connected to the Kirk family in the public eye, she believed the leak was a setup, not necessarily against her specifically, but against the conservative world she and the Kirks operate in. And because the party was centered around a major beauty pageant event filled with cameras, influencers, and press, she believed the leak was inevitable. But the way the images were released, selectively, dramatically, and without context, made her believe someone wanted to create maximum damage. Even after Candace spoke out, the issue didn't die down. In fact, her response created a second wave of attention. People began dissecting every word she said, comparing her tone to how she reacted during past controversies. Some insisted she seemed more personally bothered this time. Others said she sounded protective of Charlie, but noticeably cautious when mentioning Erika. And some argued that Candace looked like she was distancing herself from Erika entirely. While debates raged on, more rumors started circulating. One claimed that a high-ranking influencer had private screenshots of messages from someone inside the Kirk family complaining about Erika's behavior that night. Another claimed the Miss USA organization itself was preparing a statement because they didn't want to be linked to any political scandal. And the wildest rumor suggested that the photos were only the beginning, and that the person who leaked them had more highly damaging content they were waiting to release. Whether any of that is true or not, the situation hit a boiling point when an online commentator with a massive platform went live and said the Erika photos weren't embarrassing, they were marriage-altering. That single phrase went viral instantly. It was quoted, reposted, stitched, and debated across every major platform. Suddenly, the entire conversation shifted from gossip to crisis. Candace was furious. Charlie was silent. Erika disappeared from social media. And the public was left trying to piece together what really happened and why everyone connected to the story seemed so shaken. As the story reached its breaking point, the online atmosphere surrounding Erika's Miss USA photos transformed into something bigger than a simple scandal. It became a referendum on the Kirk family itself. People who had never cared about their personal lives suddenly felt invested. Political commentators started using the situation as ammunition, influencers treated it like a trending storyline, and gossip platforms pushed it non-stop, because every update pulled in massive views. But in the middle of all that noise, something shifted behind the scenes, something people close to the situation quietly described as a meltdown waiting to happen. 2 days after the photo leak, Erika was spotted leaving what appeared to be a private meeting in DC, wearing oversized sunglasses and avoiding reporters stationed near the exit. She didn't respond to any questions like whether the photos were real, whether Charlie was upset, or whether she had attended the Miss USA party alone. Instead, she walked straight to her car, her face tense, her body language defensive. The silence only made the speculation worse. And the longer she stayed silent, the more the internet filled in the blanks for her. Meanwhile, Candace's irritation started slipping through in subtle ways. Even though her official statement tried to be controlled and strategic, her late-night reposts and sharp replies hinted at deeper frustration. People noticed she was reposting comments that blamed the leaker, comments that said the photos were exaggerated, comments that suggested a smear campaign was happening. But she didn't repost anything defending Erika personally. That detail stuck with viewers. It suggested that Candace might have been angry at Erika too, just not publicly. Inside Charlie's world, things were even more tense. Several sources claimed he was blindsided just like Candace, but while Candace was focused on the political fallout, Charlie was consumed with the personal one. Even without any confirmed wrongdoing, the optics were bad. A family values leader whose wife was photographed at a glitzy pageant after party without her ring, surrounded by men, while he wasn't there. It was the kind of story his opponents would never let go of. But instead of addressing it directly, Charlie stayed silent, which made it look like he didn't know how to handle it. Some insiders claimed he was torn. On one hand, he didn't want to attack his own wife publicly or feed into rumors that could damage her reputation. On the other hand, he knew that if he didn't say anything at all, people would assume the worst. But every possible angle carried risk. If he defended Erika too strongly, people would accuse him of lying or covering things up. If he distanced himself from her, the internet would take that as confirmation that something disastrous had happened. So he did nothing. And that nothing created a vacuum that the internet happily filled with chaos. At the same time, more people who were at the event started coming forward with their own accounts. One person claimed that Erika left the party early, looking uncomfortable after noticing someone was filming her too closely. Another person insisted she stayed late and seemed totally unbothered. A third claimed Erika had simply been networking with other influential figures, and that everything looked more dramatic because of the photographer's timing. Every version contradicted the others, and the more conflicting the testimonies became, the more people questioned which story, if any, was the truth. The tension peaked when a well-known gossip site released a grainy clip from the same night. It didn't show Erika doing anything inappropriate, but the angle was just ambiguous enough to spark another wave of arguments. In the clip, Erika appears to be standing very close to a man in a suit while speaking to him. They seemed to be talking quietly, maybe even intimately, though there wasn't anything explicitly incriminating. Still, the internet ran with it. People zoomed in, slowed it down, analyzed the lighting, speculated on the man's identity, and treated that 20-second snippet like it was a historic piece of evidence. Candace saw the clip. Her response was immediate and sharp. She called the leak disgraceful and malicious. But again, she didn't defend Erika directly. She only defended the idea that someone was trying to harm the family. And in the world of online drama, what you don't say often matters more than what you do. Erika's absence during this critical period only made things worse. She didn't post anything. She didn't like anything. She didn't comment on anything. For someone who usually shared glimpses of her family, her kids, her community work, her travels, and her lifestyle, the sudden digital silence felt like an alarm bell. Even her loyal followers started asking if she was okay. By the end of the week, the pressure had reached a point where the Kirk family could no longer ignore it. According to one insider, a crisis meeting happened involving Charlie, Candace, and several trusted advisors. They reportedly discussed whether Erika should issue a statement, whether Charlie should address the situation publicly, and whether they should release the full context of the photos. But the conclusion was that any move might escalate the drama instead of ending it. Meanwhile, outside their circle, speculation was spiraling even more dramatically. Some commentators claimed Erika and Charlie had been living separate lives for months. Others insisted they were stronger than ever, and that this was simply a political attack. And then there were the more extreme theories, claims that Erika was preparing to step into her own spotlight, claims that Candace was furious at being dragged into someone else's mess, and claims that someone close to the Kirk family was intentionally stirring things up behind the scenes. The story took an emotional turn when someone claiming to be a friend of Erika's contacted a podcast and said Erika was heartbroken and felt betrayed by people she trusted. They said she believed the photos were being twisted to sabotage her character. They said she was hurt that people were attacking her without knowing the real story. There was no proof the caller was legitimate, but the statement went viral anyway, because people were desperate for anything that looked like insight. But the real breaking point came from an unexpected direction. A social media personality posted a long thread claiming to have inside knowledge about Erika's marriage, describing tensions, disagreements, and distance between her and Charlie. The thread gained millions of views before it was taken down. Whether it was true or not didn't matter, the damage was done. Overnight, the narrative shifted from, "Is this photo scandal real?" to "Is their marriage in trouble?" Candace reacted immediately. She didn't mention the thread directly, but she posted a message implying that lies were spreading and people should be careful before believing unverified claims. It was the closest she had come to defending Erika personally, but even then, the tone didn't feel warm. It felt obligated, strategic, protective of the brand, not necessarily the woman. As for Erika, she finally resurfaced in a single photograph posted quietly on her story. No caption, no explanation, no context. Just a still image of her holding her daughter's hand while walking through what looked like a garden path. She wasn't wearing glamorous clothes. She wasn't posing. She wasn't trying to defend herself. She looked tired, reflective, maybe even overwhelmed. It was the kind of picture that said more than any statement could. It suggested she was retreating, protecting her peace, choosing silence not because she was guilty, but because she was exhausted by the noise. The moment the photo went up, screenshots spread everywhere. People analyzed her posture, her expression, her energy. Some said she looked devastated. Others said she looked resilient. Some claimed she was sending a message to Charlie by not wearing her ring. Others claimed she simply removed it to avoid drawing attention. Every interpretation reflected the viewer's own biases. By now, the Erika photo scandal wasn't just about a night at the Miss USA party. It had become a story about trust, public perception, reputation, political pressure, and the complicated expectations placed on women married to influential men. Whether Erika did anything wrong or not no longer mattered. The internet had already decided to treat her like a symbol, for some, a symbol of independence, for others, a symbol of betrayal, and for many, a symbol of how quickly a woman can become a national headline without even saying a word. And in the middle of this storm, one truth became clear: the people closest to the situation, the Kirks, Candace, the advisors, the insiders, were no longer fighting a rumor. They were fighting a narrative that had grown too big for any one person to control. And unless someone finally stepped forward with the full truth, the story would continue to evolve, twist, and expand on its own, leaving everyone involved trapped inside a controversy that had taken on a life of its own. If you've made it this far, you already know this situation is far from simple. Erika's silence, Candace's anger, Charlie's hesitation, none of it adds up without the full story, and the truth is still unfolding. Every day, new whispers surface, new angles appear, and new voices jump into the conversation, turning this from a small leak into a full-scale storm that refuses to calm down. And if the reactions from everyone involved tell us anything, it's that whatever happened that night has shaken the Kirk family far more than they are willing to admit publicly. What comes next is the part nobody wants to miss. Will Erika finally break her silence? Will Charlie defend her or distance himself? Will Candace escalate this fight even further? Or is there another leak waiting to hit the internet? More photos, more footage, or a statement that flips everything upside down? These stories don't end quietly. They unravel piece by piece, and every new detail has the power to change everything we think we know. So stay locked in. Turn on your notifications. Follow the updates as they drop. Because the next move, whoever makes it, is going to set the tone for what happens next in this explosive saga. And when it hits, you'll want to be right here to catch it first.